The Mental Laws Underscore Understanding the Way the Mind Works by Jim Rohn Part 2. Please, if you have watched Part 1 of this video, please do so that you will understand Part 2. Reality check, the mind-emotion-body connection. Let's try experimenting with the mind-emotion-body connection. To experience this connection, I suggest you sit quietly by yourself for a few moments and try the following. It will only take a minute or two. Begin by closing your eyes and breathing deeply. The lemon. Start by envisioning that you are eating a lemon. What happens when you do this? Just the thought of putting a sour lemon into your mouth immediately triggers a physical reaction in your body. Your mouth contracts, and you start to salivate. All this happens despite the fact that there is no actual physical lemon. Just the thought of a lemon is enough to trigger a concrete physical reaction in your body. The scoundrel. Now take this exercise one step further and think of someone you feel has wronged you terribly. Rehearse for a moment all the wrongs you feel this person has committed against you. What emotions do you feel? What physical symptoms do these thoughts trigger? Increased heartbeat? A feeling of heat? Anger? Hatred? Rage? A feeling of tension? A feeling that your whole body is contracting? Observe yourself, your emotions, and your body as you entertain these thoughts. The angel. Now think of someone who you know loves you dearly. Someone who has always understood you and supported you. Someone who truly sees all your good sides. What do you feel now? What emotions do these thoughts trigger? And what physical symptoms do these emotions trigger? Do you suddenly feel much calmer? Do you experience a feeling of expansion in your chest and release in your whole body? Do you feel comfortable, happy, and relaxed? Now you can see that just by entertaining three very different thoughts, you are able to trigger and experience three very different emotional and physical states in yourself. Continue to observe your own and other people's behavior until you understand the true relationship between your thoughts and your emotions and physical sensations. Order of phenomena. The order in which phenomena occur is always thoughts first, then the emotional reaction, and then the physical reaction. This is true even though it is usually happening so fast that we don't perceive it. This is very interesting to contemplate because when we realize that thought is the causative factor behind emotions, we also have an important clue in healing disease. Today, much research has been done into the mind-body connection, which clearly demonstrates the multitude of ways our thinking is affecting our health. And scientists have now proven that every thought we think creates or triggers a biochemical reaction in our bodies. This is a revolution in our view of the way our bodies work and why we get sick. With this knowledge, we can contemplate and better understand the deep, long-term value of positive thoughts and intentions because now we know they will create positive emotions, which will result in positive changes in our physical bodies as well. Unfortunately, because most people are unaware of this mechanism, many of us are doing the exact opposite. They are dwelling on negative thoughts which trigger negative emotions which in turn create stress in our bodies. But please don't misunderstand me here. I'm not saying it's your fault if you get sick. That's simply too simplistic a view of what's going on. Obviously, no one does that. Rather, I am simply pointing out that our new understanding of the mind-body connection tells us that when a person's underlying beliefs and basic thought patterns and attitudes are negative and disharmonious, this can result in emotional distress and perhaps later manifest as physical symptoms and illness. This also means that armed with this new understanding, we can examine our own thinking patterns and programming and perhaps better understand the ways in which we are creating stress, unhappiness, emotional imbalance, and perhaps even physical imbalances in our lives. And we can also understand why it is so important to learn how to identify, investigate, and release our negative emotions, thoughts, and beliefs, and replace them with a more positive approach to life. Quite simply because it's good for our emotional and physical health. Yes, peace of mind is good for our health. The one real emotion, unconditional love. There is, however, one real emotion that has nothing to do with our thinking, and that's unconditional love. Unconditional love is our true nature and therefore precedes thought. But this type of unconditional love is not what most people mean by love. Most people, when they talk or think about love, mean conditional love, the kind of love that says, if you do what I want you to do, I'll love you. That's the most common kind of love we see. And I'm not even sure this really is love. But anyway, most people say they love each other as long as they agree with each other, and then when they disagree, they get divorced. Parents seem to love their kids as long as they go to school and behave themselves, but when they drop out and start smoking dope, their parents often don't. So obviously, this type of love is conditional. It depends on the other person's behavior. And it depends on our thoughts and beliefs about what is good and bad, right and wrong, etc. So it is conditional. It depends on a whole host of factors. And this conditional love has nothing to do with our true nature, which is the vast awareness or consciousness, the ultimate reality, the truth of being that we are. And the truth of being, the ultimate reality, is unconditional love. Now, why do I say that? Well, first of all, because the ultimate reality is unconditional support. The ultimate reality is supporting all of us and all of life without conditions. It just does. Obviously, it does, or none of us would be here. This one ultimate reality, whatever it is, has given us the gift of life for no reason whatsoever. In other words, this one life created us and now sustains and maintains us regardless of who or what we are, regardless of what we think, and regardless of how we use this precious gift of life that we've all been given. This one life, this ultimate reality, just supports us. It's like the sun which shines equally on all. Law 6. The law of focus. What you focus your attention on grows. This law teaches us that whatever we focus our attention on grows. This is a far-reaching and very empowering discovery. It means we energize whatever we focus our attention on. Our attention brings to life, out of the vast field of infinite energy or pure potentiality, whatever we focus on. This has now been confirmed by quantum mechanics, which has proven that observation by a conscious observer is responsible for the collapse of the wave function, Heisenberg principle, into actual particles in the field of potentiality. In other words, the waves of energy or potential that make up the field of reality that we live and move and breathe and become actual time-space events when they are observed. This is how phenomenon pops out of the field when we focus our attention on it. The power of attention. Attention, it seems, is the magic wand of creation, at least when it comes to your experiences and mine. So let me ask you, how are you using your power of attention? How are you using this amazing ability, this priceless gift? Are you focusing on difficulties, lack, and illness, or are you focusing on all the blessings in your life right now? What exactly are you doing? If you want to live a happy life, it's important to take the time to take a good look at exactly what you are doing. Ask yourself, what is the general tone of your thinking? Is it a praiseful song of gratitude from morning to evening for the blessings of life, or is it one long complaint? And what is your experience? If you look carefully and are honest, you will see that your experience is a perfect reflection of your focus. Always. And again, this is because thought is cause and experience is effect. So when we look at the power of our thinking in terms of what we focus on, we see it is all about learning to use the power of our attention wisely. This is an extremely important key when it comes to understanding why our lives are like they are. And it's also extremely empowering because we can learn to consciously direct the power of our focus. So let's look more closely at this phenomenon. Focusing on this moment. Here's a big one. What is the general drift or tendency of your mental life? Do you spend a lot of time dwelling on the past? Or are you one of those people who is always worrying about the future? And does the thought of the future give you anxiety and sleepless nights? So much so that you fail to actually notice this moment? Or do you actually notice this moment? Are you mindful enough to actually be able to focus enough on what is happening right now? Are you able to actually experience and enjoy this moment? It's embarrassing, but the honest truth is that most of us have a pretty hard time doing this. Most of us spend most of our lives somewhere else, at least in thought. And frankly, you might not even be conscious of what you are doing. And if you're not conscious of what you are doing, you might not be aware of the fact that you actually have a choice. You might not realize that you can actually choose what you focus your attention on. But of course, to do this, you must first notice what you're actually doing. So you have to start by watching yourself for a while so you become aware of the general drift or tendency of your daily thinking. Once you become aware of this, you can begin to exercise the power of choice and begin to consciously choose what you focus your attention on. And yes, it sounds simple, but it's not always easy to do, especially in the beginning. And no, there isn't any magic wand or secret formula that makes this happen all at once and forever. Rather, learning to focus the power of your attention is a lifelong project. But don't despair. Just the fact that you are becoming aware of your thoughts and how you are using the power of focus is a great step forward, especially if you can see that you are using the power of your attention in a negative way. This awareness means you are beginning to understand the way the mind works and that you are more and more able to see the cause and effect relationship between your thoughts and your experiences. This is crucial. If you want to become the master of your focus, it's also important to realize that choosing our focus is our only freedom. This is where we exercise our free will. See the next law, the law of free will for details. So keep noticing what you are doing and keep practicing. Make up your mind to focus on the highest and best you can conceive of. And do it again and again. This is the magic and joy of life. This is the great adventure. So enjoy your adventure and enjoy learning. Amazing things will happen as you become better and better at focusing on the wonder of this moment. Reality check. Use the gift of attention wisely. If you focus on lack, you will experience lack. If you focus on the abundance of your life, you will experience abundance. If you focus on love, you will experience love. Focus and health. What is your focus when it comes to your health? This is a very interesting and challenging question for most of us. When you're not feeling well, do you focus on every ache and pain? Or do you focus on the wonderful strength and healing power of your body and of life itself? You can see this is a most important question and crucial choice, especially when we know that whatever we focus our attention on grows. According to the law of focus, if we feel weak and then focus our attention on feeling weak, we will feel even weaker. Because whatever we focus our attention on grows. And if that is the case, then the reverse must also be true. If we focus on strength, on whatever strength we do have, we will feel stronger, which means we have an amazing power at our disposal in terms of health and healing. So why not use it? When you think about it, it's quite fascinating to realize that we have this amazing power at our disposal and we're not using it. How can it be that we're not using this priceless gift? Obviously, because most of us don't know about the power of focus. We don't know it exists because nobody taught us how the mind works. So we don't recognize this power or understand what it is and how to use it. Instead, we are walking around in a daze, asleep to our true power. But now you are waking up. So claim your true power and think about the law of focus when you're feeling ill. And use this wonderful power wisely. Watch yourself carefully and see what you are thinking and saying and focusing your attention on. And if you discover that you are sabotaging yourself and your recovery, you can start changing your focus now. It's never too late. Here's a wonderful affirmation by Florence Shovel Shin that can help you get on the right track when it comes to your health. I praise what strength I have. I give thanks for what health I have. I glory in what life I have, and God now gives the increase. Thinking positively is closer to the truth. Focus and challenges. The same holds true for all the many challenges and so-called problems we face in our daily lives. What is the focus of our attention when we face so-called difficulties? Do we focus on the potential in each situation and how everything in life is supporting us, or do we focus on the hassle, the inconvenience, and the irritation? When you know about the power of focus, you can see how important your choice is. So make up your mind that whatever it is, you are going to grow stronger because of it and evolve into a more magnanimous and compassionate person. And watch yourself turn every situation into a true blessing for yourself and everyone involved. Context or content. Another good way of looking at the power of focus is to consider whether you are putting your attention on the larger context, the big perspective, which you can say is the unfolding of this mysterious thing we call life, or if you are focusing on the content, which are your thoughts and emotions concerning every particular little event and situation you meet along your way. When you realize that there is a difference between the observer, you, and your thoughts, it becomes easier to shift your focus away from the content, which is your thoughts, to the context, which is the vast field of beingness or awareness/consciousness in which all thoughts are arising, and which is you. When you shift your focus from content to context, it automatically recontextualizes the thoughts and experiences you are having at the present moment and puts them into the larger perspective. And with your focus on the big view, you realize that you cannot see the end of all things. You also see that you don't honestly know what is good or bad. Good or bad again being just relative value judgments or positions which depend on our perspective at a particular moment in time. See box below. When you see things like this, you instantly become more lighthearted and can allow life to unfold with effortless ease. Reality check. Who knows what is good or bad? We often think of good and bad, hot and cold, light and dark, right and wrong as opposites. But is this true? Is there an absolute, objective standard of good/bad, hot/cold, light/dark, right/wrong? If we look closely, we discover that all dualities are in fact just mental constructions. They are relative concepts. They are all just positions in an infinite range of possible positions. Let's look at a few examples. Hot and cold. It's 0 degrees here in Copenhagen right now. Is this hot or cold? Well, compared to the temperature in Johannesburg, South Africa, where my friend lives, yes, it's very cold because the temperature in Johannesburg is plus 25 C right now. But compared to the temperature in Wisconsin where my grandson is at the moment, it is actually warm here in Copenhagen because the temperature in Wisconsin is almost 20 C. Light and dark. It's afternoon, and it's a gray, foggy winter day here in Copenhagen. If I compare this to a summer day when the sun is shining brightly, it's actually pretty dark here in Copenhagen right now. But again, if I compare this gray, foggy afternoon to the dead of night when there is no moon, well, it's actually pretty bright outside right now. So it's really a matter of more or less light. Good and bad. I have a migraine headache and feel pretty lousy. Compared to a day when I am feeling energetic and full of piss and vinegar, this headache seems bad. But if I compare my condition to the condition of my ex-husband who just died of terminal liver cancer, my physical condition is actually very good, even with a migraine headache. Right and wrong. Most of us believe in right and wrong. For example, it's wrong to lie. But is it always wrong to lie? Yes, you say. Okay, well, let's say it's the Second World War and you are hiding a family of Jews in your cellar. One day the Gestapo knocks on your door and asks you if you are hiding Jews in your cellar. If you believe it's wrong to lie, will you say, yes, I am? Or will you lie to save the lives of these people? And what about our belief that killing someone is wrong? What happens if someone is trying to kill your child? Would you kill that person to protect your child and save her life? And would your action be wrong? This, of course, is what we call situational ethics, and courts of law are always faced with this type of question. Judges and juries must take into consideration the situation and motive of a person's behavior before passing judgment on what is right or wrong. The more we consider dualities, the more we can see that there is only one reality and that dualities are relative positions in the larger context. It's your choice. So we see that what we focus our attention on grows. You focus your attention on something/someone/some thought, and then you get to experience what you focused on. It is also important to remember that the focus of our attention is always our choice, always. We are the choice makers, always, whether we are conscious of what we are choosing/doing or not. And this leads us to the next law. Law 7. The law of free will. You can choose. You are the only thinker in your mind. This is the most wonderful discovery anyone can ever make. It is the key to freedom, the high road. Because when you understand this, you also understand that you can become the conscious choice maker in your life and choose. You can become the one who decides. Most people today are asleep, unaware that they have the ability to choose the focus of their attention. But just because a person is unaware and does not consciously exercise his or her ability to choose the focus of his, her attention, the reality is that in every moment there is a choice. This ability to choose the focus of our attention is our greatest gift. It is the gift of free will. This ability to choose our focus is what makes us free individuals. If this was not the case, if we could not think for ourselves and choose our focus, we would not be free. But we can, because no one else can get into another person's mind and think for them. Please think deeply about it, and you will see how truly amazing this is. Yes, it is true that most people are as yet unaware of this fact, and are just following their old unconscious programming without questioning it. And yes, it is true that most people are not yet consciously using this power, but the power is there nevertheless. But you say, what about when people are forced to do things against their will? And yes, it is also true that people can use force on the outer plane to coerce other people to do or say things, but no one can get into another person's mind and think for them. This is where we are always free. Each person is always free in their own mind. Each person is always the only thinker in their mind. This is what makes us human beings. This is what makes human life so precious, because we have the ability to be aware of what we are thinking, and we have the ability to choose the focus of our attention. This is something we can do. This is what makes us free. Having free will is our greatest gift and privilege. It is also our greatest challenge. Why? Because no matter what is happening around you, no matter what anyone says or does, you, and you alone, whether you are aware of what you are doing or not, choose the focus of your attention. No one else can make this choice for you. Only you can do it. That is why we are the choice makers. This choice is our only freedom. Free will is our only freedom. And whether we are aware of it or not, we are always exercising this. privilege, this freedom because we are always choosing. So please wake up to the fact that you are choosing right now, and every single minute of every single day, whether you are aware of it or not. Nothing else is going on, and nothing is more important or more wonderful than this. So contemplate this until you fully understand the significance and power of free will. Free will is what we are. Free will is our true nature, our essence. Free will is all we have, and fortunately for us, free will is everything. When you observe what you are doing with this in mind, you will see that this is true. In every now moment, even if you are not aware of what you are doing, you are choosing the focus of your attention. You are either focusing on this or on that. In every situation, you are making a choice. Either you are focusing on the potential and the goodness of the situation or person before you, or you are choosing to focus on the limitations and the negative in the situation or person before you. And it's always like this. From the very smallest, most insignificant events in our lives, like standing in line at the supermarket, to the so-called big and important events in our personal relationships, careers, and on the world stage. When we understand this, we will also understand why the wise say it's all about you, and it's always all about you. Nothing else is going on but your choice of focus. You choose your focus, and then you get to experience your choice. It's as simple as that. Underscore, 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 underscore. Learning to choose wisely. This is why it is so important to learn to choose wisely, because we get to experience all our choices. So it makes sense to learn to focus our attention wisely. This is what all the great teachers have been telling us throughout the ages, the importance of exercising your free will and choosing wisely. Learning to choose wisely requires self-discipline. Learning to choose wisely means following your wisdom rather than choosing immediate pleasure. The wise tell us that even if this is difficult, it is necessary if we wish to evolve on the pathway of life and achieve our highest potential. Obviously, this is no news to any thinking person, because everyone knows that success in any field requires self-discipline. Successful people make up their minds, focus on their goals, and are disciplined about reaching them. Just think about the people you admire. How did they become great? The great leaders, the great athletes, the great musicians, the great artists, the great spiritual teachers. How did they achieve what they achieved? They used their free will to choose a course of action, and then they focused all their attention on their goals. They used their free will to spend time learning and practicing their skills. And what about successful business people? No one is successful in the world of business without exercising a great deal of self-discipline. The same goes for politicians, world leaders, and for good parents, good teachers, and good partners. Everyone who succeeds at achieving anything learns to use their free will wisely and to exercise self-discipline. The same goes for happiness. Even though people may think happiness is a haphazard event, true happiness isn't haphazard. Achieving true happiness requires self-discipline too. Now, I'm not talking about random or accidental type of happiness that comes from outer events and which depends on other people and circumstances. I'm talking about true happiness, the deep inner happiness, which is our natural state and which arises in wise people who are living in harmony with this thing called life. The people who experience this deep inner happiness see the nature of reality and understand the way the mind works. This kind of happiness is stable and comes from within. It is unconditional because it does not depend on outer circumstances. For those of us on the path who can see and understand this, realizing this inner state and achieving this kind of happiness requires continual self-discipline. Achieving this goal requires constant study and daily contemplation of this thing called life, plus using our free will to practice the techniques and focus required to cultivate and nourish this deep inner peace and inner happiness. This is what spiritual practice is all about. And of course, what most self-help books and books about personal development and spiritual growth are about. The best books describe practices for self-empowerment and spiritual growth, which require study, daily practice, and self-discipline. Most people work with their bodies, but not with their minds. Daily practice and self-discipline. Here are some examples of the types of practices I am talking, all of which require active use of our free will. The practices described below may seem simple, but anyone who has ever tried any of them knows they require making a conscious choice and then exercising a great deal of self-discipline. Practicing non-judgment, a good focal point on the spiritual pathway, is making the decision to let go of our judgments about people, things, and events. This is an excellent practice because we use so much mental energy judging people, things and events all the time, and this creates a great deal of inner turbulence. Practicing non-judgment, in other words, just letting things unfold without engaging in an inner dialogue about them, quiets the mind and slowly allows a deep inner stillness to emerge. But practicing non-judgment, even for an hour a day, requires self-discipline. To do this, you must use your free will. You must decide to do this and keep practicing, day in and day out. Practicing non-resistance. Another good focal point is to use your free will to decide not to resist whatever is happening in this moment. Even though we may be unaware of it, many of us are often at war with this moment. We are resisting what is happening in our lives right now, and this creates a great deal of stress and anxiety. So what happens when we stop resisting what is happening right now? It's an amazing experience and wonderful spiritual practice. But again, we are so used to resisting what is that it requires real focus and self-discipline to stop resisting this moment. Make a conscious choice and do this on a regular basis and see how it transforms your life. Practicing seeing the potential for good in every situation. Here's another good inner practice that requires active use of your free will. Making the choice to see the potential for good in every situation, no matter what is going on, to see the highest and best in every person present. To do this requires constant awareness and control of your focus. You have to be aware of what you are thinking, doing, and saying in order to do this. You must be mindful and self-conscious enough so when you find yourself dwelling on the negative, you are awake enough to realize that it's time to shift your focus. Again, this requires constant vigilance, which is why it is a demanding spiritual practice, unless of course you're Forrest Gump. Practicing no gossip. Here's a wonderful practice I learned at Findhorn, a spiritual community in northern Scotland. This is what they attempt to do. Whenever a member of the community has something to say about another person, instead of talking behind the person's back, the community member must go up to that person and tell the person directly to his or her face what it is her or she wants to say. In practice, this means that when you are talking to anyone in the community, if you have something to say about another person, they will tell you to go and tell it to that person instead of to them. This is a wonderful practice that requires a great deal of self-discipline. Try this for a few days and find out what a gossip you really are. This was just a few examples of spiritual practices that require conscious choice and self-discipline. Obviously, there are so many excellent practices we can devote ourselves to, such as practicing mindfulness, being present in this moment, practicing compassion, practicing forgiveness, practicing service, practicing meditation, practicing silence for an hour a day. The importance of intention. The great ones also tell us that intention is everything, since it is difficult to see the end of all things or to know what is good or bad in the long term for ourselves or for anyone else. The motivation behind our action should be our guiding light. What is the reason or motive for what you are doing? Is your intention love, kindness, and compassion? Do you hope to ease the suffering of your fellow beings with your words and actions? Is your intention to be of service and help people? Or are you only thinking of short-term pleasure, material gain, and what's in it for you? According to the wise, it is our motivation and intention which determines the karmic consequences of our thoughts and actions. Thus, we see the importance of using our free will wisely and the importance of our intention when it comes to making wise choices. So practice using the information you already have. Follow the wisdom you already have, which is always a lot more than we realize. Remember what the great ones say. Don't waste your precious time. Follow your wisdom and not your emotions. Exercise self-discipline. Keep practicing and persevere. Wake up to your true power and choose wisely. Understanding this can and will change your life. Reality check. It's your choice. Everything in this book is designed to help you slow down and become more aware of your mental processes and of what you are doing. As we learn to watch our minds and our inner processes, we begin to see the mechanisms that are running our lives. In this connection, as we learn to watch our thoughts arising and disappearing again, we discover that we also have a choice when it comes to attaching to a thought or not. In other words, we start to see that we don't actually have to believe all our thoughts. We can, for example, just watch them arise and disappear again, and we can question their validity. We can watch a thought arising and ask ourselves, is this thought true? Do I want to believe this thought? Do I need to believe this thought? Do I want to let my life be run by this thought or belief? This ability to detach from our thoughts and question them is also the power of the choice maker.